For the filter blitz, I covered the compression filter, and I'm just going to run through a couple of slides really quickly. Then I'll give a pseudo demo using our functional testing suite, since I had some difficulty sending appropriately compressed content manually, but I'll get to all of that. So, the compression filter, what does it do? As the name implies, the compression filter enables Repose to compress requests and decompress requests and compress responses between the client and the origin service. So I put a tidbit on here regarding why you might want to use compression. I assume most people know what compression is used for, so I'm going to skip that. Our compression filter may also be used to hopefully prevent XXC injection attacks by decompressing compressed requests that can then be sterilized by the translation filter, which is one of our methods for, one of our preventative measures for XXC injection attacks. As far as our implementation of the compression filter goes, we are essentially wrapping the PlanetJ compressing filter, which I've linked to on this slide, and you can see that here. And I think I'm going to stay out of the presentation mode. I'm not sure if that was causing issues, but I can just show you guys on the slide deck. Maybe. Oh, I somehow messed it up. Okay, so to use the compression filter, it's a simple matter of adding the filter to the filter chain in your system model. And I just have the snippet here, but I can show you the actual system model, I suppose. So here's an example system model. We have your node always configured, and then for the filters, just the compression filter and then your endpoints. So pretty standard stuff. For the specific compression configuration, you are required to have a file either named compression.cfg.xml, or you can configure your system model to take whatever name you want, but that's a default. So it's a pretty simple configuration. You can see that we've only got a couple of elements. So for, actually, I'm not sure if you can have multiple compressions. Let me check that. That's something I should have known. If I can type. That's weird.
No, it's a max occurs of 1.
Okay, so yeah, you either are going to compress or aren't. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so on the compression element, we have a couple of attributes to define how you want to use our compression filter. The first of which is the compression threshold. So if you set the compression threshold, that will determine the smallest size response in bytes that's going to be compressed. So this is the data coming from the origin service going back to the client. In this example here, we've configured it to be 1024 bytes. So any response with a, I'm not sure if it's the body or if it's the entire response. I think it's just the body. So anyway, any response with what I believe to be the body over that size will be compressed by the compressing filter, and the encoding header will be set, and that will be returned to the client. Let's see. Okay. We have the include content type attribute, which is going to determine which content types to be compressed. So again, in the response from the origin service to the client, if the content type is set, and if it does not match this space delimited list, it will not be compressed. If it does match the space delimited list, and if it's if the body of that response is larger than the compression threshold, it will be compressed. There are just one more attribute that I don't have in the example, but that we support, which is the include user agent patterns attribute. I'm thinking if I have an example, that's okay. This allows the user of Repose to configure regexes or patterns. We kind of use the terms interchangeably. To match against the user agent to determine whether or not a response should be compressed. So essentially it does the same thing as include content types, but it does it for user agents rather than content type headers. So the configuration is pretty simple. As for the compression schemes that we support, or do and don't support, I have a quick table here. We support gzip, xgzip, deflate, and identity. And identity is just no compression is being done, but the header is set. And we do not support compress or excompress, which interestingly, both of those schemes are supported by the PJL compressing filter, but not by Repose. And those are all the slides I have. So switching to a quick demo. You can see somewhere that we're going to use the configurations from this compression folder. So I'll show you those really quickly. I think I already showed you the system model, which just has the compression filter and nothing else. The compression configuration file, it has the compression threshold set to 0 and none of the other attributes set, so it's just going to compress every response. So I've already ran Repose since I didn't want to wait for it to start up, and I set a breakpoint where we're actually sending the request through Repose to the origin service. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, actually, before I do that, I'll show you the request body being sent is zipped content, which is, sorry, you can see down here that it's the gzip compressed content, which is a static variable in our test, which we generate using the content string that you see here, and running it through this method, which will actually gzip compress it. So we send the zipped content, which is a byte array of the compressed string shown above, in a request to Repose. And you can actually see that byte array here. I guess I should show you that. And I'll come back to this because it remains important in just a moment. And you can ignore what this test is checking for since we don't particularly care at this point. So we sent it through Repose, and the origin service should have received it. Whoops. So if I open the message chain and open the handlings, which, as Dimitri explained, are kind of the way that we keep track of the request after it goes through Repose and before it hits the origin service. So we open up the handling and we view the request and we view the body of the request, and what we see here is a byte array, but note that the byte array at index 0, the byte value is 76, at index 1 it's 111, which, if you were paying attention, is not the same as the zip content, which is what we actually sent, where the byte at index 0 is 31 and the byte at index 1 is negative 117. So this is indicative of, sorry, I should have closed that, of the decompression that's actually happening in Repose. And yeah, so that's the decompression. I don't know if I have something set up to show the compression. Let's see. I should have thought about that, but I don't think I do. Oh, and I guess I might not have explicitly mentioned it, or maybe I did. When a response is compressed, we set the content encoding header, and when it's decompressed, we remove the content encoding header. Yeah, I'm sure that we have a test for compression somewhere, but I'm going to ignore it since I hadn't had anything prepared, unless Dimitri you happen to know of.
Yeah.
The one on line, that starts on line 115.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't actually match.
Oh, this is uncompressed.
No.
None? Oh, this is a... Let me see.
It would be
Read the release page. Creating a release page.
and that's the compression filter demo.